Welcome to It's a Fandom Things live stream for this week. And my panelists, well, Carla took her sunglasses off, but there we go. I'm like, and if you can see, Carla, move your ear so people can see your earring. See, she's got the cross earring. So we are talking about George Michael. We're continuing our celebration of Pride by talking about George Michael, who is sadly missed, of course. But it's so great to be talking about him. And it's so great to talk about a musician because, as everybody knows, music is my number one love. And we've talked about music one other time on this podcast out of over 100 episodes. So I'm very excited for this. I didn't prepare like my panelists in the fact that I don't have sunglasses on. I'm not dressed like George. One of us should, I don't know, have the fringe, but we don't have that. So I failed. So I apologize. But we have two great panelists with us. Carla, who's been on every single live stream we have done since we started doing live streams. And we have a great guest panelist, Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable podcast. And they just started their second season last night. So I'm very excited to have both of you on. So really quickly, before I introduce both of you, just a quick reminder that we are going to be doing our Halloween trivia event. It's coming up very, very soon. So there's going to be more information about that. And currently we are doing a poll to see what nights people want the trivia to take place over the 10 weeks. So head on over to Twitter and vote because it's tied right now between weekday and Saturday night. So go over there, vote on that poll. Okay, so I want my panelists to introduce themselves and tell me one thing you're into right now in pop culture. Carla.
Hi, I'm Carla, or as you can see, my name tonight is Carla's Whisper. And, I guess it would be nice to tell you what I'm into, the things I'm very into, but it's George Michael all day. No, it's not queer as folk, although I tweet about that. I tweet a lot about that, and it makes Aaron sad.
Okay, so I'm tweeting out the link to our bingo card because we've already gotten two. Carla's and Queer as Folk mention. And I mentioned Pride when we started, but that's a free space, so that doesn't count. And you tweeting about Queer as Folk does not make me sad. You having
not anymore.
You having wrong opinions about Brian is what makes me sad.
I think it was making us sadder in the first couple of seasons just because there were so many tweets about Brian.
I was like, and I knew you weren't going to like him. I'm going to be honest. I was like, she's not going to like Brian at all. But, whatever. I'm trying to get over it. So, but she's starting to like him a little bit more in season 4. And she agreed with him. And that was I almost fainted. So, yeah. So Jesse, first time on here. So tell me what you're into. And also, Ricky says you didn't put a costume on. You actually took your costume off.
Is there something Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D.
It's Ricky
he's not
D.
incorrect.
Okay.
Yeah. He's not incorrect. This is more my true self. I'm more flashy and confident than I seem to be sometimes on our podcast, The Sudden But Inevitable Rewatch. So I think that's what Ricky D is referring to. I'm also, kind of a theatrical person sometimes. So I think that's what he's talking about. But right now, I'll be 100% honest with you, ladies. I'm mostly just into Cowboy Bebop because that's what we're covering on this season of Sudden But Inevitable. So I'm watching Cowboy Bebop. I'm listening to the soundtrack constantly. But my off-brand answer is the Castlevania anime. I just finished the 4th season of that, and I was very satisfied. Horror in general, not really my thing. Castlevania, though, definitely my thing, and a high production value anime, also definitely my thing. So I've been loving the hell out of Castlevania, and definitely recommend you check that out.
Where is that?
That's on Netflix. It's a Netflix.
Oh, it is on
original.
Netflix. Okay. I think somebody else on one of our recent episodes recommended that. I'm trying to remember, but I think they did. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, I think they did.
Could have been me in your live chat.
Oh, that might have been what it was. So you're just recommending it again. Yes.
It
And
probably
hi,
was me.
Bailey. Hi, Bailey. And hi, it's my sandbox. I'm not sure if we know you. It's my sandbox. Do you know it's my sandbox?
I don't, but we appreciate you.
But we appreciate you watching. Yes, thank you so much. And this is Erin, and I got to see another movie in a movie theater today. I went and saw The Conjuring, the third one, The Devil Made Me Do It, which I had a lot of fun. I know some people don't like it, but I thought it was good. I thought it was kind of scary, which, it takes a lot to really scare me, but I love those movies. Plus, seeing Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson together is always wonderful and amazing. So that was great. And then my other thing is last Saturday, the other Erin A, surprised me with her find of Boogeyman with the award-worthy performance from Barry Watson. Another bingo square for you, everybody. I cannot believe this. She said there were 2 copies there. They were $4, and she bought both of them. And the guy was like, "You want to buy both of these?" She's like, "Hell yeah." And inside, it says Blockbuster. You can see this. It was a Blockbuster video originally. So I'm very excited. I haven't watched it yet, but I am very, very excited. Oh, and it's my sandbox is Paula. Hi, Paula. Okay, awesome. So let's get into George Michael. So, of course, everybody knew George Michael first from Wham. So I want to know, Carla, did you love Wham? And are there favorite songs of yours from Wham?
I feel like I didn't so much love Wham as it was that I loved George Michael in Wham, so it just worked out really well for me that he went solo eventually. But there are a few songs that you can't help but love. And of course, you have Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, which is, a classic. That's probably the first song that I heard by Wham. And I heard it when I was in Mexico, so I had no idea what they were saying. I was like, doob, 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 doob. Doob, doob, doob. It wasn't until I moved here and like many years later when I just happened to hear it on the radio that I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. Like the doob, doob, doob. And I mean, they're just like Last Christmas. The only reason that I like that song now is because of the way that it's used in the Mindy Project. So it's more like a sentimental kind of attachment to that song. But by far, my favorite Wham song is Everything She Wants. Because it's one of those songs that I feel like Wham, because they were so poppy and they were so, cheerful and everything, people kind of disregarded the lyrics. And I think that happens a lot with a lot of acts. And it just reminds me also of Hey Ya by Outkast, where Andre 3000 says, you're not even listening, you just want to dance. And this is a similar thing because with Everything She Wants, and like I picture it kind of, you're standing in line to get coffee, right? And there's a guy talking very loudly on the phone behind you. And he's saying, some people work for a living, some people work for fun, and I just work for you. And whoa, like, okay, this is getting juicy. I want to listen to more. You told me marriage was a give and take, and you told me you showed me you can take, you've got some giving to do. Okay, now this is getting too personal. Maybe it shouldn't be this. And now you tell me that you're having my baby. I'll tell you that I'm happy if you want me to. Whoa, okay, this is too much. Can I please get service like now? Because I don't want to be hearing about this, but one step further and my back will break. If my best isn't good enough, then how can it be good enough for 2? Whoa. Okay, so you've got your coffee, you're ready to run away, but the last thing you hear is, my God, I don't even think that I love you. Whoa. Too much. TMI. Save it for when you're in your car just yelling. The whole coffee shop has just heard you telling your spouse that you don't even know that you love them, and she's having your baby. Okay, this is too much. But what I love so much about the song, in addition to all of that, is that it's one of the first songs that I remember listening to, and I remember hearing the lyrics for, where it's an imperfect relationship, and it's kind of telling you, okay, don't settle, don't just marry somebody because you feel like you have to marry somebody. because you're going to get stuck in this thing where, you know, if you don't really know them all that well before you get into it, and you discover down the line that you're not really compatible, then you've done all this for nothing. And then when you add kids in, it makes it all the more difficult to extricate yourself from the situation. So I think like there's just a lot jam packed into that beautifully written, beautifully sung song. And yet it has like a poppy beat to it that you can kind of like dance to, but it is stellar in the writing. And that for me is what really makes it.
That was amazing. I mean, seriously. Like Ricky D says, we need more lyrical breakdowns from Carla. It's true. It's true.
To your point, Carla, I think that a lot of the music in the 80s specifically was kind of the sort of thing where you would sort of just disregard it out of hand because it was all pomp and flash and no substance. You know, I mean, a lot of acts were actually that, you know, and and I feel like some of the best stuff that got going in the 80s is the stuff that, you know, stuck around because it was actually good. Even though it sounded like 80s music, it actually had some content in it. And I think that's a excellent point to bring up. I mean, it's like Genesis is the one that I always think of when I think of 80s music that used to sound like 80s music but still had content, right? I'm like, oh yeah, there's still soul in that and it still touches me, even though it sounds like he's saying nonsense, right? Like, but I think that's probably what made George himself, if I can use only his first name, I don't know if that's appropriate, but I think that's probably what made him stick in the public mind. You know, it was like people immediately recognize, even on those Wham songs that are not really about something, because there are some of those Wham songs, you can still hear like there's something about that guy's voice that is deeply compelling, and there is talent in there. I don't know what the hell they're talking about, but they sound great. Like, and that's, yeah, it's to me, those are hard to find, you know, like a lot of 80s music. It's really easy to go, yeah, they're a one-trick pony. This is what they did, and then they never did anything else. But I think my favorite part of listening to George Michael, and when I say listening to, I mean going in a YouTube binge, is watching his hair change and his looks change, and like you can watch his demeanor change as he becomes more comfortable with himself. It's just like, this guy is an artist, right? He's a musician, but he's a musician in the style of an artist, where when you watch his videos, you can tell, like, you know, this guy has a vision for how he wants this story told musically. And it's like, I feel like to be able to instill substance into your music just through pure force of will and talent, especially in the 80s, is something that is, I mean, that's huge, right? I can't really think of many other musicians that you could say that about. They are there. But I mean, I think that's, I'm sorry, I'm going to ramble. It's going to happen. If you have a square for Jesse Rambles, go ahead.
I should have added that because I do know this.
It's how I am. And I'll be honest, when I'm in a room with Carla, I'm like, I just want to hear her talk. So I'm going to give her as much to react to as possible. And then she's going to just go, like, even if she's disagreeing with me.
Yes. And when Carla and I are just together, it's like our episode last week on Moonlight was almost 3 hours long. So
it's like almost as long as the movie.
Yes. Whereas I recorded an episode last night with 3 of us and it was less than 2 hours. So. Which I'm not saying that either one is better. I'm just saying, you know, everybody has their different style.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, happens. George Michael. And by the way, everybody watching, please feel free in the comments to shout out your favorite George Michael songs. I'd love to hear them. Anything else you want to say about George Michael? Any impact George Michael had on your life? Because I know George Michael, you know, has a lasting impact that we'll talk about. And I know he did a lot for people. And he was an artist, a true artist. He was a very talented, very gifted songwriter, a very gifted musician, a very gifted performer. I mean, just watching him on stage is amazing, watching him in videos. He really knew, because, in the 80s, you had videos, MTV was the big thing. And he really knew how to utilize that medium, because I think some people didn't know how to utilize it too well. And he really did. When we talk about his solo career, I'll talk about a lot of that with the album Faith and the video for the song Faith too, which is just incredibly memorable. I mean, everybody remembers his butt in the very beginning, and then of course his guitar, and of course the jukebox and all that stuff. So yeah, he is. I think artist is a great way to describe him. I think the 80s gets crapped on too much music wise. It's one of my favorite genres to listen to. And there are some great musicians that came from the 80s. I mean, I think Depeche Mode is another one that personally for me means a great deal to me. Same with like Violent Femmes. And you've also got Bruce Springsteen. You've got John Mellencamp. People that were actually saying stuff with their songs as well, and weren't just about, which I love the cheesy hair bands too, but weren't just about that, or weren't just about the one-hit wonder things. So yeah, he was absolutely incredible and very, very sadly missed. I mean, one of those that I really remember when he died. That was, wasn't it on the same time when a bunch of great people were taken from us around the same time?
Yeah, he passed away the same year as Prince and David Bowie.
That's what I thought. Yeah, so we lost 3 great musicians, all from that same time period too.
Yeah, and those are the ones that I can remember, because I know like 2016 was just packed with memorable losses.
Yeah.
Well, memorable at the time, right, Carla? So, but you're right. I mean, and that's the thing is like, so to sort of jump, I guess, back in my own timeline a little bit. My introduction to George Michael and Wham specifically was through my mother. I'm a very late 80s baby. I hope that's okay. So I didn't really live in the 80s, right? I was born in the 80s, but I grew up in the 90s. So most of my earliest music taste, of course, as it does for anyone, came from my parents. Thankfully, my mother has eclectic music tastes. So everything from George Jones to George Michael, so it was one of those things where I was like, this isn't my music, this is my mother's music. And for some reason, I am really into my mother's music. I don't understand this. Like, why should I be into my mother's music? Like, that's weird. But when I told her, like, hey, I'm going to be on this podcast, Ma, and we're going to talk about George Michael, she like immediately teared up and she put her hand on her chest and she went, do you remember when we would sing Faith in the car together? And I was like, yeah, Ma, that's why like I asked to be a part of the show. Like, it was one of those things where she said George Michael. I was like, oh, I have an emotional connection to that. So my mother was like, oh my gosh, you have to talk about this. You got to talk about this. You got to talk about this. I was like, yeah, I know. I'm going to get there, Ma, but so the next thing that she said was, do you remember when he died? And I said, I remember how it affected you. Yes. And she was, that whole year, to your point, she was a mess. She had seen all of those people perform live. So she was like, that was her formative music. So she was like, she was devastated, I mean, possibly more so with Prince than Michael Jackson, but she was like, the whole year, she just was like, you go to her house and she'd have music on, like really upbeat, happy pop music that she was just bawling to. Like, what are you doing to yourself, Mother? She's like, I gotta listen to George Michael. I gotta listen to Michael Jackson. So yeah, it was one of those losses that was like you said, Carla, everything just felt like it was stacking up and up and up. Like, why are you doing this to us, year? Like, let us keep some of it. Come on, But all good things, as they say. But so his life had quite the effect on my life, even as a tertiary adopter, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, ironically enough, I was having dinner, an early dinner with my mom, and I remember my mom playing the Faith album when, I mean, I'm older than you, Jesse. I'm not going to say how much older, but I'm older than you. And 2 years. Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm 2 years older than you. But I remember listening to that, and my mom is, and I gave her the link, so I don't know if she texted me right before and said she needed it again. So hi, mom, if you're watching. I don't know if you're going to type in the comments, but hi. But I remember her playing that album a lot. And then she's rebuying records. Like she's going through her life and buying records that meant something during different time periods. And she's like, oh, then I've got to get that one. Oh my gosh, thanks for reminding me. So it is great to hear that. And Bailey said it's so nice to hear other people have emotional family stories related to him. And yeah, and his loss. And that's very true. That's very true. So yeah, and feel free to share those in the comments. I know that someone did send me a story. I don't want to say it if it's something they don't want said, but did send me a great, wonderful story that really shows how powerful music can be and how powerful artists can be to connect us. And especially if we don't feel connected to people, that it might be a way to connect. Okay, and Bailey said I can tell the story. So thank you, Bailey, for giving me permission. And please correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to play the video. But Bailey told me that where Bailey is pretty conservative and not very LGBTQIA plus friendly. And she was telling me that when George Michael died, it was a moment of bonding with her family that didn't really happen much. And it was a time of sort of acknowledging the loss of someone who, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bailey, please, while I'm telling this story, but it was, this connection they didn't have, with someone who meant so much to the community, and being able to acknowledge how big of an impact he had and how great that loss was. And what a powerful moment that was for Bailey, and to be able to experience that and to have that memory. So I just think that's a really great story, and really goes to show how important George Michael was. That you can have that if you might not feel like you belong, or people are recognizing you, or recognizing how important certain things are. And then to have people that you may have not had that recognition from before to sort of connect with you when you're experiencing a big loss like that is pretty profound. So I want to thank you again for sharing that with me, Bailey, because that was really awesome to listen to. When you sent that to me, I actually cried. So that was a really beautiful, beautiful story. So thank you very much for sharing that. And then Ricky D said his favorite George Michael song is Afternoon Delight, which
Okay, that's an Arrested Development
right George Michael
reference. And
It's the other George Michael.
It's not that it's see, Carla, you're laughing so hard, and all that, or Aaron, you're laughing so hard, and all that's going to do is encourage Ricky D.
Oh, sorry.
He's
I'm
just
being
here-
very serious now, Ricky D. You cut out that
we're-
nonsense.
He's talking about emotions, Ricky D. No, I'm just kidding, man. I love you. Thank you for watching the George Michael episode. But that, I mean, to your point though, like that's why that's funny, right? Like that's part of what makes Arrested Development good, is that there's a character named George Michael, and every time you hear that, you're like, the singer? And then people are like, no, it's a long story, Alex. You have to watch the show, right? Like, but it's a running joke that his name is George Michael. So even though Ricky D is being however he's being, and I love him for it, he still accidentally made a good point.
Well, it's also like, reminded me of Office Space, Michael Bolton. There's a
Why
tangent
should I
for you.
change? He's the one who sucks.
Yep. And I just want to show this really quickly. This is from Bailey about that story. And then don't apologize that you made me cry. I cry at the drop of a hat. It was a good thing. I cry very easily, so don't worry. But here's just what Bailey, just a little bit more about that story and how they don't support the LGBT community. So it hurts to know they don't support me and my loved ones, but at least I have the memory of their sadness at his death. At least they care about this celebrity. So yeah, I mean, so I'm glad you have that, Bailey. I'm sorry that you don't have it constantly. I really am, but I'm glad that you at least have that memory. So yeah, I really thank you again for sharing that. I love that so much. So thank you. Okay, well, let's move on to his solo career, which Faith was his first album as a solo artist, correct? Yeah, because my notes are over here. Yeah, so let's talk about that and how you felt about his solo career and favorite songs and that kind of stuff, Carla. And if you want to break down any song.
Well, there are so many that I could break down, but okay, so we start out with Faith, which is his first big solo recording, and then just before that, though, the transition song is Careless Whisper, because that one is, he's still with Wham, and it's still, he credits Andrew Ridgeley in the songwriting, even though Andrew Ridgeley didn't have anything to do with it. But it's a tentative moment for him because he wasn't sure about whether he wanted to go off on his own. He's very this is from like a couple of documentaries that I watched, but he really didn't know if he could do this on his own, but he desperately wanted to. And that's just because, like, if you start to see the progression in his music and his songwriting, that's not something that really jived well with the Wham aesthetic and the Wham overall, musical whatever. So he writes Careless Whisper, and this is a song that he wrote when he was 17. He releases it when he's older and when he's in Wham, and he has said that that it really bothers him that people are so emotionally attached to the song because the song is not very good. And that always cracked me up because it's a very famous song. And let me tell you, I hate the saxophone with like a fervent passion, but every time that the saxophone part comes on to introduce Careless Whisper, I am there for that. And that is pretty much like...
I'm sorry. Do you just hate the saxophone like as a concept, or do you hate the saxophone in this song?
No, not in this song. This is like one of the few times that in general, I hate the sound of the saxophone. I hate saxophone players. I hate the shape of... No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I've never...
I'm so kidding.
So like the moment in The Lost Boys where he's jamming.
It's like, die. Just somebody attack you.
I was like, I've never met somebody with a vendetta against a horn before. Like...
Well, this is a wind instrument that I am happy to see go down in flames, and which is very hard because it's made of brass. But
okay, yeah,
I'm just not a fan of the saxophone in general. I think the sound is generally cheesy.
I just wanted to know.
Yeah. Well, don't make me go off on a rant about saxophones, man. Like, okay. Don't ask if you don't want to know. Just putting that out there. The sax rant. You know what? I love I Want Your Sex. I would hate the parody version, I Want Your Sax. No, thank you. I do not allow that.
Don't want your sax.
So,
I don't want your sax.
Carla is what's a term that I have recently invented to describe somebody who feels like they represent the parts of your soul that you wish were the most prevalent, right? Like, this person, I think, exemplifies what I wish was better about myself. So the term I came up with for that is soul slice, because Carla is like a slice of my soul. And when you put them all together, you get this big multi-topping pizza of good karma and good energy. And the reason that I had to bring that up is because I was also like just dying to say, I want your sax. And Carla beat me to it. And it was like, this is just meant to be. I love you, Carla.
We're here, man. We're here. This is why we get along so well.
And you both wore the sunglasses too. Yeah. I'm
actually gonna have to take off and put on my real glasses because I have like vision problems, and the fact that they're sunglasses and that they're not my prescription, not really helping me tonight.
Mine there we go. Mine are purely for vanity reasons. So I'm going to leave them on.
can
Well-
show your earring again if people didn't see
Yes.
the beginning.
If anybody hasn't seen my earring, here is my George Michael inspired cross earring that I forgot that I have to wear headphones and that it disappears. So yeah, that was a smart investment. That's $6 I'm never gonna get back.
I still wish someone had decided to wear the fringe, you know. I mean, that would have been just
You know what I was gonna do? I was actually going to draw stubble on my face. But I ran out of time and I was like, okay, no, this is too much. This is too much. But back to George Michael's solo career. So the album Faith, it's so different from his image in Wham, because Wham is like family friendly for the most part, like, you know, good, happy fun and everybody just, you know, dancing, very 80s, whitely dancing. But
Very 80s whitely has got to be the name of this episode.
But so he really comes to embrace in that particular moment of his life the sex symbol status and the everything that it can do for you as an artist, because it can really put you in front of people's eyes. And the fact that the first single off of Faith is I Want Your Sex, I think, because if you just hear, it's a song called I Want Your Sex, and there's a lot of lines in it that are very, you know, like, I want your sex, I want you. So you just think, okay, well, this is a horrible song. It's terrible for our children. Oh, you know, like the puritanical American coming through, which is why like so many radio stations either outright refuse to play it, or like Casey Kasem would play it, but he would refuse to say the name of the song, even though it says I want your sex 30,000 times in the song. But if you really listen to the song, it's about monogamy, and it's about how, because this is, you know, in the middle of the AIDS crisis and the AIDS scares. And because I actually wrote the whole thing up. Okay. So artists who are not straight and they're not out, there's a lot of pressure to write songs that appeal to hetero listeners. And especially so in a time when homosexuality is already demonized. And as the AIDS crisis is used to further anti-gay sentiment. So, you know, these songs have like a dual purpose, because it's not just translating like a thought or a feeling into rhyme. It's also layering it, you know, with your actual desires and experiences, but also a veneer of straightness, so that it can be palatable to the, you know, the general masses, as it were. So the videos are very heteronormative and very, you know, it's a dude and the girl and they're gonna bone. But the song itself is it's saying, yes, I know we're all in a panic because we may get AIDS, but if you're being monogamous and if you're being careful, just go and do it. You know, there are so many lines in it that, and of course, like now my brain is failing me on it, but what's your definition of dirty baby? What do you call pornography? And it's weighing on my mind. It's weighing on my soul. It's taking so much time. So why don't you just let me know? But all of it comes down to, let's just do this. If we're careful, we'll be fine. You know, just enjoy sex because it's a wonderful thing. So, and like, that's that about that song. Let's go through every single song that he ever wrote. But no, I promise you, I wouldn't.
3 hours tonight.
Well, and Carla, to your point about that song in particular, though, Carla, with the lyrics, like, I feel like for me, what struck me immediately about it was, in particular, the content, right? Because I'm like, I have never heard somebody say that in music before. Because I'm very young, not because like I've never heard music, right? But so it's like I've never heard somebody talk about this, and he's talking about it with a lot of confidence, like no questions asked. He's like, "This is how I want this thing to happen. Here's how I feel. What do you say?" And it's like, it's almost like it's almost like his impression of heteronormativity. To your point, Carla, like, this is how straight guys talk. They're just like, hey, what's up, girl? You're hot. I want to do you. Let's go do it. Like it, but he still manages to instill that with like some poetry and some rhythm. And again, the confidence in his voice is like, to me, that was the striking part of it, right? Because if right away you're like, oh, he said sex, and then you start listening to it and you're like, oh, he knows what he's talking about, though. It's not like he's just saying sex for some reason. Like, yeah,
Right.
it's getting my attention, but he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. It's, but this is part of the whole package of him packaging himself as this idealized version of what a sexual icon is, and using that to bring people on and listen to his music and really listen to the lyrics, because all of the other songs in the album Faith, they're about something, like even Monkey, which is just like the silliest song. I don't know why it went to number one, because it's like it's a why can't you do it? Why can't you set your monkey free? And we all know it's not like a literal monkey. It's not like Marcel and Friends and they're trying to like sell him to a zoo or anything. No, it's like, get the monkey off your back. Okay, we get it. It's still a song about a monkey. Why would you do this? But Faith, I guess it would be nice if I could touch your body. But even that song is about something more than just touching people's bodies. And then the two major ballads, well, actually three, because you have Kissing a Fool, but the two real major ones that really stand the test of time, which are One More Try and Father Figure, those songs, part of the reason that they're timeless is the lyric and the way that he sings them, because there's so much passion in them. Particularly, I think, with One More Try, it starts out kind of softly and he's kind of, begging, please let me go. And then he hits that part towards the end where he's just like singing his soul out. And he ends with saying, okay, well, I'm too weak. I just, let's try one more time. But Father Figure is a song that I think is really often misunderstood because, it's not, it's a sexy song. He has a lot of sexy songs, but they're not always about sex. And Father Figure is not about sex. It's about learning from somebody, having somebody in your life that you can look up to as a young person who is trying to navigate the waters of relationships and of in his case sexuality. He's singing this as somebody who's looking back and like being kind of like a mentor or somebody but if you look specifically at the lyric, I have had enough of crime, that's a very important lyric in this song because, homosexuality is seen as a crime, as a sin, as all of these things, all of these taboo things. And it's very important to him to get across the point that it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be like that. And I've had it with this stigmatization and this being kind of cast aside because we have this, quote unquote, forbidden love. So I think like that's very important to acknowledge. And then as you go on to his other albums, there's such a change in the demeanor and in the type of music, because it starts out very poppy with Faith. It's very straight up rock pop. You go to Listen Without Prejudice Volume 1, and there's a huge leap from the one to the other, because then you start to hear the notes of bossa nova and more jazz and more funk coming into that album. And this is the point where he doesn't want to have that same image anymore. He starts refusing to appear in videos, and all of the videos feature models, because then you're still getting the titillating sexuality, but you're not getting him as being part of it. So he's, taking his own power back from the label, from MTV, and saying, no, I will give you what I want to give you of me. And the rest is just my voice and my songs. And that's what has to be the important part. So you have, his cover of They Won't Go When I Go is the best version of that song.
That's
like,
one
no
of my
disrespect.
favorite songs. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no disrespect to Stevie Wonder, but that is a George Michael song when he sings it. Mm-hmm. Just, and like, this is the point where I actually started to really pay attention more to George Michael, because I started relating more to the lyrics and to the music. But there's so many just great songs in that album. and you start to hear more substance to it. There's a lot less really wondering about life. There's a lot more preaching about life, is my take from it. There's, and of course, I can't bring up the name of the song, but where he starts talking basically about materialism and capitalism, and how, oh, charity is a coat you wear once a year. This is the year of the guilty man. Okay, I can't. Praying for time. Oh my God. Praying for time. Because it is a song about recognizing that, okay, how much stuff could you possibly need? Like, and it feels kind of rich coming from this super rich mega star, right? But this is because at this point, we don't know the extent of his charity. We don't know the extent of how giving he is. We don't know that until after he's dead. And then he meets Anselmo Falepa, falls in love, loses him. You have this huge gap. And then he comes out with Older, which for me is my favorite album of George Michael's. You have the songs Older, Fast Love, Spinning the Wheel, My Mother Had a Brother, just all of these songs that are about mourning. The whole album is about mourning and sadness and loss, but also about coming out through the other end and realizing that, like, there's a gift that he received from Anselmo, the gift of love, that even though it ended too soon, he still got to have that. And that's why I think Jesus to a Child is probably one of his absolute best songs, because it captures all of that mourning, that loss, that gratitude so beautifully. I mean, and what have I learned through all these tears? I waited for you all these years. And just when it began, he took your love away. But I still say, when you find love, when you find that it exists, then the lover that you miss. So all of these beautiful things that he's saying and it's contradictory within the song, but that's why it's perfect, because it is something that you feel as a person who's mourning. All of the contradictory feelings. It's like, I'm so grateful that I knew you. I'm so sad that I lost you. Why, God? Why? But also, God gave me you. So, oh God, there's just, and the next, because you have like his greatest hits. You have Symphonica, which is like his greatest hits but live. You have Songs from the Last Century, which is just covers of older songs, which, by the way, his version of Feeling Good is my favorite version of Feeling Good. His version of Brother Can You Spare a Dime, my favorite version of Brother Can You Spare a Dime. But then you get the album Patience, which I think is his second best for me lyrically. You have the song Amazing in there, which is a tribute to his new lover. And how, I think it's amazing the way that love can set you free. And you tried to save me from myself. So darling, kiss as many as you want. So now he's gone from like strict monogamy in his music when he was younger to a more open take on relationships, where it's like, okay, it doesn't really matter if we're out, doing whatever with other people. Well, you're my home. You're what I'm going to come home to. The song itself, Patience, is beautiful. It's another cry against materialism and against, the satellite says, don't you want it? Can't you see the things that you lack? And then like a father figure taking his children in his arms and turns his back against these pressures to have. But my favorite song off of that record is Through, where he's saying, is that enough? I think it's over. Everything has changed, and all this money and cruelty instead of love, people have we no shame. It's beautiful. He's acknowledging that, greed gets you nowhere. It doesn't get you the love that you deserve. It doesn't get you the great things that are real in life. And there's that lyric at the very, very end, towards the very, very end, where he says that, it's a cage of his own making. What kind of fool would remain in this cheap gilded cage? I have no memory of truth. And like the first time that I really heard the lyrics, I was just crying because it's so true. Like, you can't have all these wonderful things. You can't have this mega successful career and all of this money and all the things that come with it. But is that really the best part of life? Like, he at this point had already lost Anselmo, he had lost his mother. You know, like the two most important people in his life had gone from his life, and all that he has left is money and fame. And is that what he really wants? And he's fallen to deep depression, and he's uh, using substances and getting into lots of legal troubles and everything. But you know, so such a reckoning for him that I think it's what really makes it for me really stand out. As we go from Faith on down all the way to Patience, his songs become more confessional and um, more revealing. Like he's really starting to bare his soul because that's all he has left. You know, he had David Gross, I forget his last name, for like 10 years, which is, you know, 5 times as much as he got with Anselmo. But he still wasn't satisfied. Like he still started spiraling and spiraling and spiraling. So he never really managed to reach those personal highs after that. So he reached for other highs that weren't serving him in his life, and that, you know, things just kind of got very complicated for him. And then he stopped really writing and really releasing stuff, which, you know, as a consumer of his art, like it made me sad, but it's at the same time like, okay, if that's what he needed to do. But just my whole point is that his trajectory as a solo artist is very, very transparent, and becomes more transparent as time goes by and as he releases more music, and you start to really get to know him down to the bone, because he's letting you in so far that his joy and his pain are undeniably palpable.
Yeah, all of that. And I have a couple of thoughts on a couple of things you said that I'll save in just a second. First, just want to say hi, Panda. Hi. Thank you for stopping by and coming and listening, or not, yeah, listening and watching. So thank you so much. So Jesse, what are some of maybe your favorite songs from his solo career, or anything else you want to add on to that?
Well, pardon me. Thanks for making me go second after Carla. That's rough.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So for me, I think some of what I feel about his entire career mirrors some of what Carla was talking about. But he seems to, like, for me, the themes that I feel like I could pull from almost any point in the discography are, you know, agency and respect. Like, I need to have full agency over me, and that's it. You're entirely in charge of you. What does he say? Freedom 90 is, I don't belong to you, you don't belong to me.
Yeah.
And, you know, and but he also has lyrics of, you know, don't you think it's time you had sex with me? So it's like he's being very honest at all times, and I feel like his raw vulnerability is that thing that I couldn't identify in his voice, where I was like, why is his voice so compelling? Like, I just want to hear it more. And I think the answer to that is you can hear that vulnerability in there. You know that he's always being honest and open, even if he's feeling ugly or, you know, having a rough time. You know that he's accessing a true part of his soul. And I think what makes that impressive is some of the packaging, right? Like, it looks like he's putting it in the shiny sex symbol package. And to Carla's point, like, I wouldn't have picked up on that as a kid, that he's using his platform to communicate how he wants, right? Like, I didn't pick that up. I was just like, that guy is like very confident and wants to be on the screen all the time. I feel that way too. So maybe that's a normal thing, you know, like, I think for me, the thing that impacted me the most on a personal level with George Michael would be, this just feels weird to do this like this, so I'm gonna
get more real.
I think this light is really bright and I'm just now realizing that. Maybe I can. There we go. They're good glasses. So I think the most personal impact that George Michael had on me was he was the first man that I ever saw that was like, he's really good looking. And then I had to immediately process that, right? Because I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I can't think a man is good looking. Like, I'm a man. Like, I'm 12. Like, what's going on? And then, you sort of naturally go, oh my gosh, what does that mean? What does that mean? And then eventually you learn it doesn't mean anything. It means you can objectively appreciate beautiful human beings. Like, because I told my mom, I was like, he's like, what's the word I'm looking for? And she's like, incredibly handsome. Yeah, I know. And I was like, oh, can I just say he's handsome? And she's like, yeah, he's gorgeous. I was like, oh, okay. Like, she's not freaking out that I think he's good looking, so that must be okay. And then you have this whole thing. I mean, everybody goes through it, when you're whatever that age is, like the end of middle school to the middle of high school or whatever, where you're like, I am the world's most awkward person. I couldn't be
Mhm.
smooth or confident or sexy the way that he is ever if I tried, right? And on top of that, I have no idea what I'm doing. So it's like to experience that all at that time where I was like, okay, I'm seeing that sexuality isn't like a defined hard line that you bump up against and you're like, oh no, right? It's a spectrum and it's fluid and there's, all matter of things that go into it. But it also gave me the confidence to be like, and this is going to sound probably conceited, but it gave me the confidence to be loud and confident and arrogant sometimes and tell people, look at me, put a camera on me, I want to have a podcast, I want to be on YouTube, like it's like I've identified with something in another person that I didn't know and was like, oh my gosh, that's a thing you can do. You can just be always confident and always talking about what you want and still be respectful. And apparently that's part of what makes people attracted to you, because it's like if he was also like a terrible person in real life, we would have heard about that. Like everybody knows that he had some troubles towards the end, but like we never heard of, George Michael kills another assistant, like because they were exhausted. He never gave them days off or anything. So it's just like,
I thought you meant like murdered the assistant. I didn't
oh,
think you meant like they just died.
yeah, you know how celebrities are always killing their assistants and getting away with
They
it?
just get away
Like,
with it all the time.
yeah. They're like, you know what? No, I
It's
just,
rampant in Hollywood.
right.
That's
Yeah,
the next movement is calling out the murder of assistants.
so in a weird, I don't mean to co-opt, a message of pride or anything, because of course that's not what I'm doing, but like it's almost like seeing a confident gay man on stage helped me go, oh, it's okay to talk about your sexuality and ask questions about it without like panicking or feeling like something's wrong with you or feeling like this isn't something you should talk about, right? Like I was just like, this is entirely new and I have to know what's going on. And it was, I don't know, it's really nice to be able to kind of pinpoint a moment where I was like, oh, okay, so normal is totally relative. Like, that's cool. I always thought normal was a set standard. So that's probably the biggest personal impact for me. And then I know it's the easy answer, but because of the interaction with my mother, it has to be Faith. Like she cried today when she asked if I remembered singing that song with her in the car, and I almost cried because she was crying. When your mom cries, you almost have to cry.
Yeah,
So like,
very true.
it was just like, for me. And then I hadn't heard that song in probably 10 years. The first time I heard it on The Office. And I was like,
Oh, yeah.
oh my gosh, this is like, I'm having a flashback. What's happening? And like, I looked at my wife and she was like, what? And I was like, it's the song. And she's like, yes, it's Faith. What are you talking about? Like, I was like, oh, right. I haven't told you the story yet. But I mean, the thing about that song, I think, is that it mixes that pop catchiness with just anybody can sing it well, right? Because it's so well written and it just flies off your tongue. It's like you feel confident and sexy when you sing that song. I mean, at least I do. I'm not going to speak for everyone in the world, but like, I think if you sing the song Faith, even to
Mhm.
yourself, you feel confident and sexy. So I there's not a lot of songs that I, as like a pretty average white straight dude, can say that song makes me feel sexy when I sing it, but Faith is one of them. Like, I don't know if it works, but I feel that way.
Yeah. Well, I will say though, I was singing that today to Fergie, who is a dog, and she was not giving me confidence. She was looking at me like, "What is wrong with you?"
Well, she's a
She
dog.
doesn't get it. She just doesn't
Yeah.
get it.
And then I was singing and then I was singing all these George Michael songs to her, and she would be like, "What is wrong?" I'm getting down in her face, and I'm like, she's like, "Oh my gosh, okay." I'm gonna run
I'm
away
just
from you now.
picturing you singing one more time, like,
I did.
teacher.
I did. That's exactly what I did.
And I feel like Fergie's more of an emo dog, though. I feel like maybe if you sang something more emo, she'd be more into it.
Or heavy metal. Something
Yes.
something that
So-
mentions murder and death a lot. She'd really like, she liked watching horror with me. So
to that point, well, not heavy metal, but there is a really cool cover of Careless Whisper that's very heavy. I think it's like, I don't know what you would call it.
I think
now,
I've
like
heard that one. I'm
alt
gonna
rock
look
or
that up.
something. I don't know what you would call it, but it's very heavy, and like, I'm not gonna be the person to mention the cover that shall not be named, but this cover of a George Michael song is, I mean, yeah, it's a straight up cover, just done in a different style, and it feels maybe a little bit soulless, but you can't make a George Michael song soulless unless you
Mhm.
do the cover that cannot be named.
Is that Seether?
It
Was
might,
it
is it
Seether
either?
that's
Oh
in it?
my gosh. Now I feel bad for bringing it up. No, but they did a great job. Seether is the guy, the lead singer of that band really like rubs me the wrong way. Have you ever seen a musician perform and immediately you're like, something about that I don't like? Like,
Yes.
it feels like if you met them,
Yes.
you wouldn't jive. I feel that way about the lead singer of Seether. But the song, they did a good job. I mean,
Yeah. Well, and I think, looking back on it, people like Marilyn Manson, even though I like that kind of music, there was something about his performance that was a little bit different, and you realize that it's because he's absolute piece of scum, so should be in prison. But hey,
yeah.
and Panda loves Faith and Freedom, and then
Freedom was
Bailey
so good.
Bailey loves that cover that you're mentioning, Jesse.
Oh, excellent. Wait,
Bailey's
the cover that we did mention or the cover that we didn't mention? Because that one is awful.
I don't know, Bailey. Is it the cover that wasn't mentioned or the cover that was mentioned? I'm assuming it was
Sorry.
the cover that was mentioned.
I'm sorry, Bailey.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
just totally
We'll
put
see.
Bailey on the spot
I
there.
know.
Yeah,
Bailey,
I-
are you right or are you wrong?
Just send her the link.
Seether,
Aaron.
no, Seether. It was the
Okay. Yes.
It was that one, and
Bailey-
then
Totally correct. You're awesome, Bailey.
yeah, so it wasn't the one that shall not be mentioned. And then just for anyone who's playing along on the bingo card, just to update you, we've done horror, Barry Watson, Queer as Folk, Pride is the free one, Carla sang, and I think that's all. So yeah, so I don't know if that gets you bingo yet, but there you go.
And you know what? The thing is, I'm not even thinking about the bingo card. I've just been, like, okay, am I going to introduce myself with a song? Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm totally going to do it.
Well, I know.
Because that's
I
just me.
mean, I knew that would be. I almost made that the free one because I was like, that's definitely. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Yeah, and Bailey really does like that because she just sent a playlist with that song on it to Rachel from Sort of Brilliant podcast.
Very
so
cool.
yeah. Awesome. Well, were there any other ones you were going to mention? Sorry, Jesse. Were there any other? Things
I do know that I think Freedom 90 is like, so that was one of the videos that I watched this morning after work. That was I had like the 15 video playlist going, and that was one of the ones where I was like, I don't know that I've seen the video for this. Apparently, the George Michael YouTube channel has like everything upscaled to 4K. It is gorgeous, like super
Oh.
high def George Michael videos. Anyways, the video for Freedom 90 is one of the ones that Carla had spoken of, where there's a lot of models in it, and they're all lip syncing, and it's not just him.
Mhm.
And the lyrical content of it was like, oh, he's again, he's saying something here. Like, he actually is putting his, like I was saying earlier, his raw vulnerability is coming through here, right? He's saying boy instead of girl, like, which is subtle but happening, right? It's like, I know Sam Smith had a similar thing where he stopped saying girl in his songs and started saying boy, and it was like, it must have been so liberating, right? To just
Mhm.
and the point of that song is the freedom to do that, right? And then yeah, I mean, just that reiteration of the agency over yourself, nobody belongs to each other. And then I feel like that's kind of like Carla was saying, he started preaching life, right? That was, in the gay community, the mentorship and the people who had survived, all the persecution and then the epidemic, and all that stuff. I know that those people were hugely important to the younger generation in the community, because those were the people that were saying, hey, we were at Stonewall, we were here, we did these fights, this is why, you know, you are here because of us, sort of a thing. And we're here to guide you, not like say thanks to us, but like, we can help you with our experience. So to see that happen through his music and through his art and through his career, and to know that it's like, it's so emblematic of the community, right? The support and the love and the unconditional agency, and just, you're in charge of you, and that's all I ask you to do. It's it's I mean, if you go watch a bunch of George Michael videos, trust me, it'll hit you like it hit us. You'll be reaffirmed in your love for George Michael, because damn, damn.
Yeah, very, 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 very true. And there's also a great documentary on HBO, which I don't know if my panelists have watched that documentary on HBO by George Michael.
We haven't, but I have HBO Max.
So you should go watch it. It should still be on there. So yeah, go watch that documentary. It's really great. And there's a great scene in there where you watch, um, they're playing They Won't Go When I Go, and you watch as Stevie Wonder listens to it, and you watch his reaction to hearing the song, and it's so beautiful because he's just overwhelmed, and he's just like, I think he cries, I can't remember, but he just thinks it's just absolutely beautiful. And it's a lovely cover. I think it's one of the most beautiful songs, period. I cry every time I listen to that song and I sing all the lyrics, and it's almost like a religious experience in a way, because it's almost spiritual. It's almost like being in a church and having like a church choir singing to you. That's the way that song hits me. And a lot of his songs feel that way when they are the slower songs, and the ballads and stuff like that. But I definitely agree with the album Faith. I think it's one of the best albums ever, 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 period. I know of that for him personally. I know that he spent a lot of his life sometimes trying to get away from that, because that was during a lot of when he was not being fully himself. And that's the way I view his music, is as he goes on, you see a lot of him coming out, and not just out of the closet, but becoming more free with who he is and free in his career. Because it happens with a lot of musicians. I mean, of course, Prince as well, where they are controlled by their label, controlled by their managers, and they don't get the freedom to say what they want to say, or do what they want to do. And so their art becomes so much of a business. That's the one thing you have to struggle with, is if you are an artist and you want to make money, then that's business. But as an artist, you're like, I don't want to be a business. So always that constant push and pull. And I think he struggled with that a lot, just like Prince did. And I also got to see Prince in concert. I never got to see George Michael in concert, but I did see Prince in concert. And Chaka Khan actually opened for him. It was the most
Wow.
amazing thing. It was so great. I feel very blessed that I got to see him in
Yeah.
concert. It was one of the best concerts I've ever seen. Sadly, it was at Fiddler's Green, which Jesse, if you know,
Oh,
I don't think that's the best
yeah.
concert venue,
Couldn't
but
have been. Yeah, it's not the best.
Red Rocks is the best,
Especially
of
in
course.
Colorado. Yeah, you could go to Red Rocks. I saw Michael Jackson when I was a fetus, if that counts.
That counts.
I was
You
at
were there.
I was at the concert.
A
Yeah,
fetus. A
Yeah.
fetus. Woo!
yeah.
That Jesse baby, he wasn't even born. He's listening to the concert through his mother's womb. Ooh!
It was a good time. I remember it
Yeah.
was really fun.
Yeah, you were probably kicking a lot.
Yeah,
You were-
sideways.
You were doing a moonwalk in.
I was doing the sideways. Yeah, the pendulum kick, right?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
you were doing the Thriller dance.
Running
Yeah.
into the
Yeah. Yep. And yes, Paula, it would have been so much better to see it at Red Rocks. I mean, I've seen some great concerts. Last time I saw Depeche Mode, which is actually the last concert I saw, which is so sad, was at Red Rocks. But yeah, it would have been. And then just really quickly, Bailey said I mentioned horror, but I didn't say where I watched it. Well, I watched it at the theater. I know what you're trying to get me to say. I'm trying to get it to come naturally. Although that item has won bingo for Bailey the past couple of weeks. So that's why Bailey's trying to get me to say it. It'll come naturally, maybe, because of course that has everything to do with George Michael.
Totally. You can absolutely see that just automatic link.
Yeah. And I think, Freedom is probably my favorite song of his overall, because no matter who you are, you can find something to relate to in that song. And I think that's true of a lot of his songs. But I think with that one, it's like it is about freedom, but it can be freedom however you define that. Freedom to be yourself, freedom from maybe something that's holding you back, freedom from a toxic relationship, freedom from a toxic friendship, freedom to finally pursue your dreams, freedom to be who you are. And that was so much of what that song was about and what that video was even about. And it defined, I think, a lot of his life going forward. And even though there were tragedies and bumps in the road and stumbles, I think what George Michael was all about was being okay. I know you said okay with a different kind of, with being normal, and the defining normal as not what you might have thought normal was, Jesse. But I also think what it is being okay with not being normal, not being
Right.
that norm that everybody has there, being okay with being weird and different and odd, and embracing that. And also embracing the fact that you're a sexual being and whatever that means to you, whether you want sex, don't want sex, whether you're gay, straight, bi, pan, whatever that means to you, embrace that. It's your sexuality, own it, don't be ashamed of it. And he definitely wasn't. And I know when the Faith album came out, that was like, I don't think people realized how impactful that was and how impactful all the sexuality around it was. And granted, he wasn't out then or anything, but it was so sexy. I mean, and it was something that was dangerous almost, like even in the Faith video and the way the camera pans up him when he's, of course his butt thing, but also when he's when he's by the jukebox and he's got his foot up and he's tapping there and his sunglasses and his guitar and his jacket. And it was like, he was like almost like a bad boy. And he was also someone that, you probably wouldn't want to get next to because, he's so okay with sex and he's so okay with his body and he wants to be okay with your body and he wants to have sex with you. And I think that's the way a lot of puritanical people saw this. Really, it was like this.
But that's part of the appeal right there, because his demographic was definitely the younger demographic. And what does the younger demographic want to do at any point is to take off their elders. And it doesn't hurt that he has a beautiful voice, that he has really catchy songs. But on top of it, you have the fact that he does look like the sexy bad boy that, you don't want to bring home to your parents because,
Yeah, exactly.
oh no, oh, this George Michael, he's too sexy.
He has
Like you can just
earrings
imagine.
in both
Yes.
ears.
Yes. And he wears like leather stuff and he's walking around with a guitar. Like, why can't he take off his sunglasses? We're indoors, so
And
all of
let's
these
be
things.
real. Those jeans were applied surgically. Right? Like,
Yes.
there's no way that he just puts them on.
He
Like
laid
they had
down
to
and
build
had
them
this
around
thing
his.
that-
Yeah, they built the
because, like,
jeans around his legs.
Yeah, because this is a time when socially, like, all of his clothing was really loose and just, like you had all of these kind of loose leg pants and whatever. But the rock stars all had these really tight pants. So, if you're a bad boy rock star, then oh my gosh, it's too sexy, it's too much. No, no, no. But the absolute puritanical hypocrisy of the US is consuming all of the sexy stuff and then vilifying it at the same time.
Shaming it.
Yeah.
which makes you ashamed of who you are and ashamed of your sexuality and
Yeah.
ashamed, like you were saying, Jesse. I love that you were saying that, it was an interesting time for you to look at this person who you're like, oh, wait, he's attractive. Wait, am I allowed to
Right.
think that as a
Right.
straight man? Is that okay? And then realizing, sexuality is a fluid thing. It just is. There are women that I think are absolutely drop dead gorgeous and that I've had my own little crushes on. And I think that's a okay thing. You should never be ashamed of that. It's part of who you are. It's part of, what makes us human. And I think too often in this country, we shame that, especially with men. I think because I think women doing that's titillating to some people. Men, it's like, no, you can't find another man attractive unless you're definitely
Right.
gay,
Right.
So I think it's great that he was able to do that. And another thing was, you have in the 80s, you have a lot of the hair bands and you have like Poison and all that stuff. And you have these videos where these women are sex objects in the videos. And granted, you would have very sexy women in the George Michael videos. And granted, the singers of Poison and all that were sex objects as well. But with George Michael, you had some of that camera panning up him, like with a female gaze almost up his body. So it was he was a sex object, but I think it was handled in a different way than it was like with hair bands and stuff like that.
Yeah, it almost
Yeah, but that's
felt
because he
like
had
it was
more of a hand in it.
right. It almost felt like it was an indictment of that because they used the same. It actually, to me, it felt like it was shot from the male gaze. They just put it on a guy instead of, because they have the woman on the jukebox too, right? And you
Yeah.
get like two
Mhm.
shots of her, and then
Yeah.
it's like, nope, it's all George now. So it's like it was almost him going, well, you would do it with her. Why not just do the same shots with me? And it was like, because if you look at it, like, if none of the stuff that he's doing is rock star stuff, like rock stars don't wear cowboy boots and play acoustic guitars, like,
Mhm.
but he's like, no, it's not a rock star thing. It's a sexy thing. Like, it just
Right.
everything from the top to the bottom will be good looking. And it was like, how you mixed so many genres in your outfit and it still worked. I don't know how you did that. Like, but I think we can all appreciate that he went from the Wham hair to the Faith hair, right?
Yes.
Like,
that
Which
was
is the
definitely a step
best.
up.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You
talk
look
about
back.
a glow up.
Yes. And I want to share, because my mom can't type in the comments, but she's watching. I want to share what my mom just wrote about George Michael. She just texted me this because I just really think it's great. And she said, George Michael's songs are uniquely intimate expressions of his awestruck surprise at being alive. They're full of celebration and questioning, performed for his maker and not for the crowd. He's like a Buddha on the verge of Buddhahood.
That is such a good
Wow.
observation. Yeah.
Your mother is a poet.
Yes, she is. She's an amazing writer. She's an amazing artist herself. So thank you, Mom.
Yeah, thank you, Mom, because those are really great points. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's exactly, and like I said before, it's like as he goes on, that becomes even more and more apparent. Like that kind of shield of hiding behind being sexy starts to fall away. He stops appearing in videos. He stops his songs become so much more introspective and so much more him putting his soul out there for the world to consume, or not to consume, because it's really just, like, it feels like reading somebody's journal sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And what your mom said, like, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
He does
Yeah.
have that quality of like, it does sort of seem as though he's screaming into infinity, like, I will declare everything there is to declare about who I am and what I want and why I deserve to be comfortable with that, to any, heart or mind that is listening. And that's, yeah, that's an
Mm-hmm.
excellent image that she conjured.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So thank you so much, Mom. That brought tears to my eyes when I was reading it. And yeah, so thank you for letting me share that too. So yeah, I thought that was a great way. And that also, I think, says better than I was saying what I'm trying to say about George Michael has this power to, he doesn't, and I don't mean this in a like at all like putting him down at all, but he doesn't really give a crap if you are going to like him or not. And it's not that he doesn't want you to appreciate his art. It's not that he doesn't want you to grow from his art or get something from his art. It's more that he has been through so much to get there and to get at a place where his art, his own art, and it's him and it's his lyrics and his music, and nobody's going to be controlling him. And also to a spot in his life where he can be like, this is who I am sexually, this is my sexuality, this is how I identify, and you're not going to pigeonhole me and you're not going to judge me. And so I am just going to say what I want to say, and this is my journey and I'm sharing it with you. And in the end, the fact that people got something from that, I imagine that it probably meant a lot to him, because I think he was just like, I'm just going to put this out there and I may get rejected. And I'm sure a lot of people did reject him. I mean,
Yeah.
people,
He
that Faith album, I mean, this was before that. That was just one thing that people were just like, wanting to
Well, and
destroy those records.
it's like um his career was an exercise in demanding acceptance,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
in a way that was like, that was still compassionate and demonstrative, right? It wasn't him going, I'm mad at you and you need to fix that. It was him going, this is who I will always be. I love me. If you knew me, you would love me too. And I feel like
Mhm.
that's so prevalent in so many of his songs. And to your point, Aaron, I think that's where a lot of his impact does come from, because it's like, I mean, it's similar to the impact that I was feeling, right? Where it's like, you can be confident and uh, demand acceptance, even if you don't feel normal, or if you have redefined what that is, and if you've decided normal doesn't apply to me because I don't want it to, I want to be me, not normal, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I feel like just that tiny little essence of that is in nearly every single song from start to finish. And to see it play out over the course of so many years, I think is what helps people to have faith in it. Sorry for the pun, but it's like, you can see that it's not something that he did to be the next big brand, or something that he did because it was popular, or it wasn't part of a wave, it wasn't part of a move. It was truth for him. He just wanted to share truth and
Mhm.
let people access their own truths through that. And yeah, his work and everything that he was is just beauty, and in the most tragic way, right? It's pain that begets beauty, that begets pain. And I'm just grateful that of all of the years that the world has existed, you and I happen to be around pretty close to and overlapping with a lot of the same years as that human being. Like, how lucky are we? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very, very true, because music is such a powerful medium. I think it, in a lot of ways, is more, I mean, it, to me at least, it's more powerful than other art forms, because it can instantly transport you to another time in your life. It can instantly transport you to a moment, to maybe a significant time for you. We were actually talking about that today when we were having dinner with my mom and my sister. We were talking about that, how when you hear an album, it might instantly be like, oh my gosh, I remember when I was listening to this when I was like 15 years old and I was going through this really rough time. And this is what got me through. Or it can even make you smell something again, like, oh, this reminds me of that perfume, or this reminds me of this food I ate, or something like that. It's such a sensory, it just, your sensory overload from music. It just can happen so easily. And that's why I just think music is the most amazing gift that has ever been given to this world. Honestly, I could give up movies, I could give up everything else. If I had to give up everything and only choose one thing from art, it would have to be music, because I could not live without music. It inspires everything. It can turn a bad day into a good day. It can also do the opposite. It can also be a way for you to get out all your emotions and get out pain and get out sorrow and get out anger in a healthy way. And when you have an artist like George Michael, who had that gift, who was truly blessed. I mean, he was blessed with a gift. I mean, yes, you can study, you can train, but I think he was one of those rare, beautiful artists that was born with this amazing gift. And he blessed us by sharing this gift with us, by sharing his soul with us, by sharing his heart with us. And that's a beautiful, lovely, amazing thing that will last for decades and decades and decades. My hope is, decades from now, people who weren't alive when he was alive will discover his music and find something in it that speaks to them. And I do think that can happen, because I think his music lasts. His music stands the test of time. As cheesy as that sounds and as cliche as it sounds, it's true with him. And that doesn't happen all the time. And I do think it's so amazing that we have lived in the time of so many great artists. And of course, we've sadly lost so many great artists, but we also still have some that are around that are such blessings and so beautiful. And the fact that they share their art and their heart and their soul with us it's just amazing. And yeah, music is just everything. It's just really everything. And even when you don't have the lyrics, sometimes just the music can speak to you in a way. And also, I think it's like poetry, where, I mean, of course it is like poetry, but where with poems, I think you can find something different in a poem than maybe even the writer intended.
Hmm.
And that's the beauty of poetry. And that's the same thing with like a painting or a drawing or any form of media. You can find what you see in that. And I think that's the way music is. Like his song, like I said, with Freedom, that can mean different things to different people. And that's what's so beautiful about it. So yeah.
Yeah, and faith is that way too, because it's, I mean, the word is so loaded, right?
Yeah.
And like Carla was saying earlier, he is kind of juxtaposing this super sexy imagery with this traditionally Christian imagery, where it's like he's got the cross earrings, he's talking about faith, he's also shaking his butt and gyrating his hips quite a bit and wearing some mighty tight pants, and has more product in his hair than the girl on the jukebox did. And it's like, I don't know what it is. It's just he's visually compelling and he sounds amazing. But that concept could mean different things to different people, because for me, what he's saying is like, yeah, it would be great to have this relationship right now, but I got to have faith that if I keep working on me, then I'm going to find the relationship that's right for me, or I'm going to someday be right for you, or whoever he's singing to. It could be that, or it could be, I got to have faith in myself, like I can get through another week with no crazy sex as long as I have faith in myself. And then, maybe it's also like, but I also got to have faith that the next option that comes up is going to be way finer than you. Like there's so many things you could ascribe to that, right? But it's just, I don't know. Mixing pop with substance is a truly masterful thing, and I think that it's not appreciated enough. In anyone that does it, but
Yeah.
specifically with George Michael, like, I mean, he is one of those names. It should go Michael Jackson, Prince, George Michael. You know what I mean? Like, it should always be that sentence. It should never be one of those guys. It should always be the whole sentence. But like,
And
I
David
feel like
Bowie.
maybe, well, right. Well,
David Bowie.
I think a lot of people just put Bowie on his own tier, but like,
That's true.
I just feel like he's one of those names that I feel like I want to hear more frequently when people are talking about the greats, you know. So maybe we can help people do that.
Yes, yes, yes. And like Panda says, and like I said, music can cheer you up on a bad day. You know, just spending this past week, just yesterday, I was listening to George Michael because that's all I've been listening to pretty much all week. And I was driving in the car, listening to it at full blast and singing at the top of my lungs and dancing in my car while I'm driving. I mean, don't worry, I was being safe. And what's so great about that is, at least for me, I don't care at all what anybody else driving by thinks.
Right.
I don't care if I look like, what is wrong with this person? It's so much fun. And that's what's just so amazing about it. I mean, today when I was driving to the movie with my sister, Journey's song Don't Stop Believing came on. And we turned it up and sang it, both of us, at the top of our lungs, dancing in the car while driving to the movies. And it's just one of those
Nice.
where you're like, you have to do that with certain songs. Anytime Faith comes on, you have to sing along to that song. And, you know, that song could also be interpreted in ways where, because you do have in the beginning, it starts with music that's very much like church music, like choir music. And the church has hurt the LGBTQIA plus community so much and hurt a lot of people. I mean, the church just has hurt a ton of people. And so you could also interpret it that way too. You could also take part of it and see, you know, someone taking that and not twisting it, but making it more beautiful in the fact
Right.
that, yes, you can still have faith, you can still believe in something, you can still have your spirituality, and that can be separate from the church, because the
And that,
church is man. It really, I mean,
yeah,
you know, it's
and that
humans.
speaks to his just like his audacious insistence upon being accepted. It's like he's like, I will mix everything that I can that makes you uncomfortable just
Mhm.
for the sake of it, and you need to accept that. Like it, and it's not, it doesn't feel like he's attacking anyone. It just feels like he's going, look, this is all just imagery and song. Look, it's fine. Like, if you look at the taboo thing, you will see it's okay. Everything is fine, you know. And it's yeah, I love his provocative nature. Like, that might be the word that best fits him for me. Like, just all around musically, you know, everything. Like, but yeah, I that's an excellent point, Aaron.
Yes, we need to talk about music more in this podcast. I'm very ashamed of myself because I'm such a music person. We are going to be talking about 80s music. We're going to do a whole episode later this year talking about 80s music. Yes, Carla is going to be on that one. So that will be a blast. And I'm sure when we do my live birthday celebration, I'll be talking about music a lot.
if I if I could, I'd like to ask one question before we move on.
Yeah, of course.
You had mentioned that music is one of your go-to things when you're having a rough day.
Mhm.
I'm definitely the same way. So if I am in a bad mood, I have to put on heavy music. It has to be rock or metal or something. And then I immediately am energized and feel better, and I feel like I've focused myself. Um, so I'd like one song from both of you. It doesn't have to be George Michael. What's one song that you two go to when you're having a bad day?
I was going to say a whole album, but probably Bluer Than Midnight by The is one of them. That's the first one that popped into my head. Any Depeche Mode song also, but I would say that Bluer Than Midnight by The.
I it's very situation dependent. Like there's no one song that I really go to, but I feel like lately it's been a lot of Queens of the Stone Age that I gravitate towards when I'm having a bad day. In particular, I Sat by the Ocean, because it's such a beautiful song and you can really sing along to it. And it's, I don't know, I think it's just a really pretty song, but it's very singable. So yeah.
I would please like both of you to send me links to those songs because I want to
Oh,
experience
Oh,
them.
definitely.
Well,
Yeah. Whenever,
if you
whenever,
insist.
and whenever I can share the with more people,
I'm
I
down.
will definitely do that because the is a band that needs more fans, in my opinion.
Well,
And their
and to
album
your point,
Dusk is like
oh yeah,
my soul. That song speaks to my entire soul. So,
that's
or
what I was
that
gonna
album,
say. Is
yeah.
for me, it was an album too. I was like,
Mhm.
I can't pick one song. So like, if I'm feeling upset or angry, I listen to the album "The Fall of Ideals" by All That Remains. It's very heavy, very fast metal. All of the songs are like uniquely bright and positive. Like they're all about how, yeah, this is rough, but I'm gonna pull through because I've got the power to keep myself in line and stuff. And I think there's like no swearing on it. Like I noticed after listening to it
Hmm.
several times, I was like, this is a whole aggressive metal album with no swearing. Like, which is not, I'm not like looking for an album with no swearing on it, but I do find it impressive when people are able to pull that off, especially in the metal genre.
Yeah, that is pretty impressive. And then I just want to point out a couple of things from our comments here. Bailey was saying that the religious symbolism reminds her of how wearing flag attire used to be a political statement. So
Mm.
yeah, I can see that. Yeah. And then I'm assuming this is a song that Panda is mentioning, Let Me Know. So yeah, please mention some songs that you listen to when you're in a bad mood, songs that make you feel better, and who the artist is too, because I'm always looking for new music to listen to too. So please do that in the comments as well. Yeah. Yeah. And we've already touched on this, but I just want to see if there's anything else everyone wants to add about the lasting impact of George Michael on music, on your life, whatever you want to say, Carla.
Oh boy. Okay. I'm trying to calm my body because I have so much that I want to say. As for his lasting legacy, there are just so many things that there's so many reasons why he's so important to me and to my life. Um, I think this is one of the first artists that really connected with me uh, lyrically. Yes, he's beautiful. Yes, his voice is just unbelievable, but really it was the lyrics. And the first time that I really um, feel like a gut punch kind of feeling listening to his stuff was I was starting college, and my best friend slash roommate, she had this single of George Michael, and I forget what was on the one side of it, but the other side, and we listened to into that one side of the single for I don't know how many weeks before we finally said, oh hey, let's flip it over and see what else is on here. And it happened to be Jesus to a Child. And I as it is, I'm a very melancholy person. Like I really gravitate towards slower, softer, more introspective, sadder things. And this song, she and I were both crying when we finished listening to it, um, because and like I've said, it's a song about Anselmo and love and loss and grief, and we hadn't gone through any of that really, but just the way that he sings it really makes you feel what he's feeling. So and that's something that I really always wanted to be a musical artist. Like that was one of my pipe dreams in my youth. Like I really wanted to write stuff that would move people, and this was one of the first things that really sank its claws into me. And I mean, we listened to that obsessively after that. It was just like, like, what other music is there? We don't care. It's still all about Jesus to a Child. And also because, we're both Catholic, and we were both, I mean, we went to a Catholic college, and we had gone to school together since the fourth grade, all through Catholic schools. So all of that imagery really, um, really stays with us because of those connections. But but there's also another thing for me, again, in the Catholic vein, is that in Ash Wednesday, there's always this reading. And I'm not Catholic enough to remember the name of the reading, but all I know is that it's about not um, not showing your faith for the sake of showing your faith, and not showing your generosity for the sake of showing your generosity. So, that's the one that says, don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. So you're giving for the sake of giving. You're not giving to show people that you're giving. You're not fasting to show people that you're fasting. And like the reason that I bring that up is that that's how George Michael did charity and how he did giving. The reason that we don't hear about a lot of his charitable giving until after he passes away is because he didn't need that praise. He didn't seek that praise. He was content in supporting causes and just giving money to people that he felt could use the money. There was an interview with a couple, and they were trying to have a baby. It's two women. They're trying to have a baby, and they can't afford the IVF or whatever it is that they're trying to use. And he anonymously donated money for them to have another round of IVF. And it's little things like this that he does because he believes in giving, and he believes in distributing his wealth. He was apparently very generous with giving gifts to people and their children, and he was always doing that. So like that's another big legacy for me. It's I already believe in silent giving, and he is, and I was like, see, like one of my heroes did that as well. And I didn't find this out until after he passed away in 2016. There's also the legacy of course, of his coming out and how all of that happened, because he has been, conflicted. He wants to come out, but doesn't want to be outed. He's scared about being out and all of these things. And even though his songs are becoming more revealing about it, he's still not like out. And then in 1998, and this is like, so the older album with Jesus to a Child comes out in 96. So he's still not out, but he's singing songs about Anselmo. And in 1998, he gets arrested for indecent exposure because he was masturbating in a like public bathroom or something. And that's when it's like he comes out, but he kind of also outs himself because he wasn't being as careful as he could have been. And like he's even said in interviews that he also, that it was like kind of on purpose, but not really, because he was sick of being in the closet. And this was just like a subconscious kind of way of just letting the truth out there. And, but also for me personally, it also made me stop and think about, okay, well, why is it bad for somebody to be gay? Again, I've grown up in Catholic education my entire life. Why is being gay bad? Like George Michael is not a bad person. Why is it bad for, because this he was cruising with all of this, and it was done very clearly to try to entice somebody to, hey, come and give me a hand with this handy, why don't you? So he's and so like all of the truth comes spilling out, and like I remember kind of thinking, well, why does it matter? In the grand scheme of things, like how does this impact his life as an artist? How does this impact all of the things that he's done for me as an artist, to my heart and to my mind? So I can't even imagine being a gay man and being a fan of George Michael's, and then having him come out and not just be outed, but then he's like, yeah, I'm gay, so what? Like, who cares? What do you care? What's the big deal here? And he writes a song Outside, which is, in the video, it's like one of his few actual appearances in a video after the Faith album, where he's dressed as a cop and he's just parodying the whole thing and just mocking it and sending it up. beautifully. Like he's in on the joke, he rolls with the joke. He's like, yeah, yeah, and what's your point? Let's dance. It's just like a really beautiful way of taking it. And then he starts taking over um more control of his image that way, where he was once running away from the paparazzi and running away from the cameras. He turns around and he's like, okay, I'm done running. Like, you want to ask me something? Ask me something. Let's get it all out there. And he forges a new relationship with the media. And like the final layer that I'll mention is his control of his image as an artist. He even though like he's in the hands of Sony in the beginning, and he is trying to break away from them, at most points in his career he has been in control of his image, and he has decided, this is what I want to project, this is what I don't want to be. And it works in his favor because he believes so thoroughly in his talent that it's like, well, okay, you may be putting my music out there, but I'm super duper talented. You would be, like you would be begging me to come on board at all costs. So he has this like massive amount of confidence, and it's not unearned, which is, I think, something that a lot of artists lack. It's like they have the confidence, but they don't have the goods to back it up. So his impact is something that I think will continue for a long time, because as people, discover his back catalog and will, and really come to listen to his lyrics, I think they'll see that he was such a complete artist, and that even in the albums that, I mean, nothing was going to perform as well as Faith. So even in the other albums that didn't perform anywhere near that, there is still amazing truth in there. There's still so much being said there that will continue to resonate for many years to come, because those are messages that are not they're not just of the time or of the person, even though they're very personal. I think we can all find something in his music that we can relate to at any point in our lives. And I think even in the future, our kids will be, playing with each other on holograms, and like, like, and transporting themselves to around the world, by, oh, I'm just going to step into the world machine. I'm going to go to China now. Bye guys. And, but they will be listening to George Michael on their travels, because the music will still have that much of an impact.
I love that. That's awesome. And Jesse?
On my show, I try to be as eloquent as I can at all times, and I really like to have just a brilliant final thought lined up. But I don't think I can add to, or improve upon anything that Carla said. And I just want to echo everything that she said and thank her for blessing us with her presence. And I realize this might be sounding sarcastic at this point, but it's not. Like 100%, I just love to be anywhere in Carla's orbit. I will say, though, as far as impact goes, let's be real here, okay? Anytime anybody anywhere in your life says anything close to, I guess it would be nice, you're all over that, right? Like, it doesn't matter what the setting is. It doesn't matter if you're at work. It doesn't matter if you're in a meeting. Like, somebody says something close enough to that, you're set off. The whole song is playing in your head, and depending on the setting, you might just ask, if I could touch your body, and then they'll go, very funny. But I mean, it's a half joke, right? But like, it's true that is in the zeitgeist, right? Like, that's a sentence that you only need to hear the first part of, and then your memory is instantly tripped, and you're on the same exact page as everybody else in that room. And like, that's a kind of ubiquity that a lot of artists are never going to see, right? There's very few musicians who have a line from their song become part of the global lexicon, let alone, the name of that song or the hook from that song or the jacket that you wore in the video from that song or your absurdly tight jeans from that song. Like everything about that is iconic and it's one track. Like that is mind-blowingly impressive. And I mean, I've listened to that song like 5 times in the last 3 days, right? I'll probably go listen to it again when we're done here. Just it's it's arguably one of the best songs ever. Like if you were gonna make a list, that song would have to be on it. I think. I'm gonna say that for me, it would. But other than that, just when you go back and listen to this, just listen to what Carla said, and then listen to what Aaron said, and then everything that I said will sound even better.
It'll just enhance. No, what you were saying was great too. Yes, it was. No, it really was. So yeah, I mean, there's not much else I can add to what has been said already, really. And yes, I agree, Carla. What you said is just true and amazing. And I love the image of that popped in my head of watching grown teenagers getting in and doing the transporting to a different country while the album Faith is playing. They're jamming out to it. I'm just picturing that. And I think George Michael would have a chuckle at that. Definitely. But I do think, like I've said, I just think the impact is going to be that his songs are universal and you can find something that you relate to in each and every one of them. And, they're the songs that you hear them and you want to sing them, and you want to sing them like with your whole soul and your whole being and your whole heart, not just like those casual little, you're bopping along songs. I mean, I don't think necessarily the Wham songs are that way, honestly. I love some of those, but they're not. I mean, Wake Me Up Before You Go. You're not going to be like, I got to sing that with my whole heart.
That's a great song if you want somebody to look at you really weird and then leave the room. Like,
it's also just, an idea here, Jesse. It's a great way to introduce your child to the George Michael experience, because, if you get them young,
yep.
Start them with Waking Up Before You Go. Yes, exactly.
That's brilliant, Carla. My daughter already eats those applesauce pouches, and they're called Go-Go. So, like,
yes, there you go. It'll play it.
This could be. I could make it part of her routine. Wake me up before you go. Read me a book before you go. Night night. I mean, this is.
And this could be for everybody out there. This is Parenting 101.
Yeah.
Yes, we're here to give you parenting advice. We're not just here to talk about music and pop culture. We're also here to help the parents.
Yeah, and they'll handle that. I can't give you parenting advice, dog advice. I can give you parenting advice if you don't want to have kids.
Or parenting advice if you don't like your kids.
You want to?
There's also that.
No. So did you do this with your son then, Carla?
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah,
okay,
like one of the songs that I had him listen to, because what I'll do is I'll just play music that I know he's gonna like, and I don't say anything about it. So I'm just like, it's in the background. I'm just like, oh, hey, Mom, what is this? Can you put it on my iPod? Well, yeah, okay, I guess. Like if you really want to listen to Wake Me Up Before You Go, then I guess that can be arranged. And then I'll put it on his iPod, and then he'll bop along to it for like several weeks. He'll be really into it. And I'm like, oh yeah, there's another song that you might like. By the same artist. Next thing you know, rabbit hole time.
Now, did you do this though with Bon Jovi? Because I remember not too long ago, you said that, weren't you saying that he was complaining about listening to Bon Jovi?
Yeah, and that's because I was putting on the wrong Bon Jovi songs. I had him hooked with Bad Medicine, well, then it's. If you want to have your kid listening to something, Bad Medicine is like the primo Bon Jovi starter kit. But Then I switched to like Always, which is not his strongest song, and the fascination kind of wore away. So I'm gonna have to like
You should have
rethink my
gone to like
strategy.
Runaway. Trying to think what else you should have got. Yeah, do that one.
Yeah, like I think a lot of the songs from like the New Jersey era and all of that will get him hooked right back in. So I'm not too worried. I got this covered.
Yeah, you'll do it. You'll do it. But this has been a lot of fun. Honestly, it's been so much fun talking about this with both of you. And thank you to everybody who's watched and made comments. And definitely we need to do more music. And I don't think we got the bingo card.
No, I don't think we did.
That just means they'll have to watch the next live stream.
Oh.
Yes, the next live stream. You will definitely, this is the first time we haven't gotten the bingo. And we haven't, last one, we got every single thing on the bingo card.
Well, that's what happens when you go 3 hours. It's like inevitable.
Yes. And I think we kind of were trying to get to that anyway. We kind of were making it a goal that we were going to get every single one. So yes. So on our next live stream, and let me just put up the little thing here for that too. We are going to be talking about a fanfic. I just laugh about it because I still can't. I don't know why, because we are a fandom thing. So, I mean, it makes sense. But this is what we're going to be doing. And it's going to be at a different time because I am going to go see The Lost Boys at Red Rocks next Saturday night, the movie. So nice. I'm going to have to endure the saxophone scene that Carla would be cringing at if she was there with me.
I don't want your sax, Lost Boys.
But come on, that's an iconic scene in the movie.
Look, I guess.
Oh, come on.
Do you have any idea how many sexual harassment complaints Carla has filed? Because it's upwards of 15.
How many sexual harassment. Yeah. Very many of them. I get very litigious when it comes to.
Oh, we got fanfic. So, hey, there, fanfic. So maybe that got a bingo.
Oh, there you go. Yes, that's right. We did do fanfic.
So, yeah. So next week we are going to be talking about 91 Whiskey. So, sorry. I meant to change it to spelling out 91 and I didn't. Apologies. But that's going to be next Saturday at 12:30 Mountain Standard Time. And that's because, like I said, I'm going to go see Lost Boys with the amazing saxophone scene.
We get it, Erin. You have a real life.
You have a real life. No, I'm just hyping up the saxophone scene because it is iconic. I mean, come on. Other people must agree with me.
Why are you so mad at this horn?
It has harmed me in so many ways, man. Like, you don't even know. Harmed my ears and my heart.
Killed my parents or something. Like.
Oh my gosh, somebody has to do like a parody with about that. Somebody out there, please make this video.
And that's what Guilty Have Got No Rhythm is about.
And the soundtrack will just be that song and Baker Street back and forth repeatedly.
Oh my gosh.
That's my true reason why I don't listen to jazz. It's just the sax has just soured me on it. Too much sax.
I'm gonna pick the sax heaviest episode of Cowboy Bebop for you to guess on season 2 of my show.
Oh my god!
Are there sax heavy? I've only watched like a little bit of one of those because I mean I know I still have time, I guess, to watch. Just assign me one.
I can do that. That's gonna happen with a couple of our guests. I will assign you. But yeah, so you could actually. Josh is finding himself. I think he's most of the way through the whole series now, but only on the soundtrack. So we watched 2 episodes and then he was like, give me the soundtrack for all of it. I need all of this music right now. So okay. if you enjoy music, you could probably get through the whole thing without even technically watching it. But I think you would like to watch it too.
Okay, well, and speaking of Josh, he just joined.
Now. Hi, Josh. We're closing it down. Thanks for stopping by, bud.
He said he
You're
was
the
in the
best.
wrong stream, so I don't know where
Oh.
you were, but
All right, you guys. He's here. Let's start over. Okay.
Oh yeah, let's gear up.
let's start over.
Welcome to It's a Fandom Thing Pod. My name is Jesse. Tonight,
And my name
We're
is
talking George
Carla's
Michael.
Whisper. What?
And you
I'm
gotta
sorry,
have
Jesse.
faith
I didn't.
that this is gonna
didn't
be the best.
catch all of that. Can you repeat
The
that?
earrings,
My
yes.
earring is causing me to have trouble hearing you.
well, I guess it would be nice
Oh man.
if you could hear my voice, because I know not everybody has a voice like me. I think Josh probably left now. So
he's gone. He's like, that's enough. Josh has the freedom to leave if he wants to, and the freedom to come back in.
he doesn't
Good
belong to me. I don't belong to him. So it's
I mean,
totally fine.
listen. Okay,
Freedom.
the longer this takes, he's just getting older, and he's been a patient man, and I think it's amazing
Give
the
it
way
one
that
more try.
podcast can set you free.
If I could ask you though, Josh, what's your definition of dirty?
Yes, what do you consider pornography?
He
Look-
is beet red right now, I promise, even though we
I
can't see him.
know. I know, like Jesse's position on everything is that sax is natural and sax is good, and not everybody plays it, but everybody should. But I disagree.
No. I think it's time you had sax with me, Carla. We're gonna go find the best sax album. We're gonna get some slices of pizza, and we're just gonna have sax all night. And then at the end of it, you'll be like, you know what? You really changed my mind. Saxophone is where it's at. I think it's gonna work.
I don't know.
I'm
I mean,
gonna
I guess
spam you with so many sax things. You're like,
Oh yes. There's got to be so many memes about saxes. Ugh.
yes, hit Carla up with those, everybody.
oh my god.
What's Christina Aguilera about? With I must have missed something. Josh just said that. I don't. Huh? Oh, maybe that's what he considers pornography.
oh,
Oh, what's your definition of dirty? Because her song "Dirty." That was
Oh.
clever.
oh yes, that makes so
okay.
much sense.
Okay,
You're welcome, Josh. Nobody else would have
Okay.
got there.
he just shouted it. So,
Yeah. Christina Aguilera.
well, I'm glad you showed up towards the end. I really am curious what stream you were in. If you finally found the right stream.
He's probably watching the last one that we did and going, "This doesn't feel live," but he's there. So.
He was. Oh, then he must have been watching Moonlight. That was the last one we did.
Oh,
Yeah, that's very different from George
Yeah.
Michael. So
So I'm like, when are they going to start talking about George Michael?
they're talking about this
Also,
movie.
where's
I don't think I've
Jesse?
even watched it.
Yeah, exactly. It's hilarious.
It's okay. Thank you for stopping by, Josh.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you both to Jesse and Carla. And before I have you say where your podcasts can be found, actually, I'm just going to let you do that. Sorry. Go ahead and tell me, because I already did say what we're going to be streaming next week. Sorry. I'll be saying it
Well,
again now. Go for it,
I
Carla.
can be found. Okay. Actually, Meg and I can be found at our podcast, which you can find through any reputable podcast dealer. It's Bedweb Ahead Podcast. And our Twitter handle is at bedwebbeheadpod. You can find us on Instagram at bed.wet.behead.pod, or on Facebook, just look for Bedwet or Behead Pod. And I also just want to say that I'm very excited to be Erin's co-host next week on like all of the episodes she's recording.
That's true. You're on every single
one. Yes, I will be in the Queer
She's
Spoke,
joining the Queer
the
Spoke
91
one.
Whiskey, and the Schmitz Creek. So yes, find my face there.
Only one is going to be a live stream, though, everybody. Just 91 Whiskey. Okay, and Jesse, where can they find you?
So my podcast is called Sudden But Inevitable. This season it's called the Sudden But Inevitable Rebop. We are watching back through Cowboy Bebop with 2 first-time viewers. One of those first-time viewers is my friend Josh, who is the head of the Twist My Arm Network, which is just a group of friends that know each other in real life. We all have podcasts that we make together. You can find me on Twitter at Sudden Butt, or you can go to twistmyarmpodcast.com to get every show that we make in audio and video format all in one place. One other thing I do have to bring up, we are still formulating and inventing something called Twist My Arm PodCon 21, which is a big, giant virtual brainstorming session for indie podcasters. We want to talk about what works for you in marketing and branding and live shows. What's an easier way to keep your engagement up, things like that. We just want to talk about what's worked for us, what's worked for you, and maybe share some of our knowledge and some of our experience, because a rising tide lifts all ships, and Twist My Arm would love to be part of your tide. Other than that, you can catch us every Friday night live on youtube.com/twistmyarmpodcast talking about Cowboy Bebop. You are going to see familiar faces there. 2 of those faces happen to be sharing the screen with me right now. And before I do go, I have to say, Aaron, thank you so much for running this and doing the hard work. And Carla, thank you so much for being you and allowing me to benefit from knowing you. It means the world to me.
Aw, thank you. Thank you
I
for
love you.
saying that. Yeah, we have, as listeners know, we have raved about Jesse before on this podcast. So thank you. And I was really happy to finally have you on. Jesse will be returning later when we talk about, it won't be a live stream though for that one, because Sasha, one of our panelists, is going to be on and she refuses to do live streams. So it won't be live stream, but we're going to be talking about Stand By Me. So Aaron will be crying for most of that episode. So apologies, but that's what's going to happen.
It happens.
Yes, exactly. It happens a lot with me. It didn't happen with Brokeback, which I was just amazed because I was like, I'm going to cry through this whole thing. And it didn't happen. Okay. Anyway, this is Aaron. You can follow our podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/It's a Fandom Thing Pod, on Twitter at Fandom Thing Pod. No, it's in that one. On Instagram, Instagram, like a place where you can instantly get a grandmother.
Comes with a doily.
That's just all I'm thinking now is if you need a grandmother, go to Instagram. Sorry, everybody. You can follow us on Instagram at It's a Fandom Thing Pod. And then I forgot to say where you can actually follow me. Sorry. You can follow me on Twitter at @AprilBeauty. The E and the A and the B are capitalized. I'm back to tweeting more because Carla is back to her Queer as Folk watch. So I'm back to mourning the fact that she cannot see. I mean, see, first it's saxophones and then it's Brian. So maybe I've got to, you know what I've got to find is something with Brian and a saxophone and just spam you.
Don't you do it. Don't you do it.
Spam you with Brian playing a saxophone. Wouldn't that be great? I'm gonna find that. Somebody make that for me if you can.
Well, I guess it would be nice.
If Brian could touch my body, yes, that would be very nice.
I know what your dreams are going to be about tonight.
They're going to be very weird dreams.
They're going to be about saxophones. Yeah.
Saxophone.
She wants Brian's sax.
Yeah,
she's going to wake up like alto, alto, alto.
Oh my god. Okay. We went on a total weird tangent there. But anyway, I am a lot more happier now because Carla's back to tweeting about Queer as Folk, even though she breaks my heart every week. I still love it. It makes me happy. And speaking of Queer as Folk, like Carla mentioned, that's going to be not our next episode that's dropping, but that's going to be next week. We're revisiting Queer as Folk. So I just want to throw it out there. Please don't put it in the comments right now because Carla hasn't seen every season. But if there is a storyline, because we're just going to be focusing on storylines for this. If there's a storyline you would like us to cover, please contact us on social media and let me know, because there's so many of them, and I just want to make sure if there are ones that people want to make sure we talk about, please hit me up and let me know. And if you haven't already, go listen to our first Queer as Folk episode, which is still competing with Lucifer for the #1 most popular spot. Because every time it inches closer, Lucifer just gets more listens, which I just think it's actually Lucifer listening to the episode now. And he just can't stand that somebody's trying to beat him.
Not even, it's just Tom Ellis, like
It's
sitting
just
in
Tom
his home.
Ellis.
Being like, oh, I see that my podcast is falling behind. I am going to bump it up and listen a few more episodes.
Carla, hey, Carla just did an impression. Maybe that will get you bingo.
Quick, cut it off before somebody wins.
I know. Before somebody wins. Well, I think Bailey just won last week, like 20 stickers or some obscene amount. It wasn't that many, but some obscene amount. Okay, but anyway, on our next episode, we're going to be talking about Orange is the New Black, which we've already recorded this episode. And I think it's a really good discussion about what the show does right and all the wrong things the show does, especially when it comes to tackling Black Lives Matter. That's where the show really, really falls short. So we talk about that a lot. We talk about representation. We talk about how important it is for representation behind the camera, because then certain things won't happen. So yeah, so I think it's a really good episode, though. We do talk about positives. It's not all negative. But that's with the other Aaron and Judy on that one. So that's a lot of fun. So, and after I close us out and have us leave, I'm going to play again our new horror trivia promo. We had our first meeting about this last night, and it's going to be a lot of fun. There are some things we're putting together and trying to decide. Once again, like I said, there is a poll on Twitter about what day of the week you'd like these trivia nights to occur. So please go vote there, because it's tied right now, or maybe it's not. I don't know. I haven't checked since we started. So please vote in that, and that'll be a lot of fun. Remember, signups open on that on August 1st. I don't think Jesse's going to be on any of those because he's not a horror person, but unless he wants to be on horror comedy.
TBD.
Yeah, like he's like, no, I'm not going to be on the horror ones. But we have some
It depends on our schedule, but yeah,
yeah,
I'm kind of a wuss.
Yeah. So, but it's going to be a lot of fun, a ton of fun. Carla's going to be helping behind the scenes, and I don't know, maybe popping on some of them. We'll see what happens. But thank you so much, everybody who has joined us. And until next time, remember, it's a fandom thing. Black Lives Matter, and stop Asian hate. So thank you so much.